So you know what?
Yeah, man.
Now I was gonna mention how having the proper setup can actually make a difference, and people are gonna be able to tell the difference between me that I don't have a proper setup versus you who has a microphone and has a setup. The difference that's gonna make.
We're okay. All right, here, let's check Facebook. Okay, we're live on Facebook, but I got to tell it to make it public. Here we go. Great. And we should be live on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's the easy one. All right. What's going on here? We're also on YouTube and Twitter this morning, too.
We're everywhere.
We're everywhere. We're everywhere, baby.
There
we go. We're live. We're live on the LinkedIn there. All right, what's up, everybody? Happy Monday morning.
Happy Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah, I was talking to our neighbor. He's like 100% Mexican. He was born there and then came here like a few years ago. I was like, "Oh, are we all ready to celebrate Cinco de Mayo tomorrow?" He's like, "Dude, no legit Mexican actually celebrates Cinco de Mayo." Like, oh shoot, I feel like my whole world has been turned upside down. So apparently, it's only a thing for us Americans that want to eat tacos
in the U.S. Huh?
In the U.S., exactly. So, well, I'm excited to be hanging out this morning, guys. CEO and co-founder of Command Your Brand, Jeremy Ryan Slate, and we have from our sales team, Nano Aquino, and we're stoked to be hanging out with you here. And we were talking about this topic on Friday, so I wanted to have a conversation with Nano about this. And that's the idea of saving money, because sometimes you'll gosh, we've been doing this almost 10 years at this point in time, but you'll get a prospect that's looking to save some money, and they're thinking, okay, if I just make this move here or there, I'll save a few bucks, and in the long run, this will still be what I'm looking for. And I think we've found, frankly, because what ends up is, I'm thinking of one client that we've been working with for a bit now. They'll make that decision for saving money, and a year later, they're back and they're a client. Because what ends up happening is it ends up that decision to save money wasn't what they thought it would be. And that's what I wanted to kind of talk about this morning. So I guess when you look at that, Nano, what do you think about when, somebody doesn't want to pay the bigger price to work with a bigger company to save some bucks, and kind of where does that go?
Yeah, for sure. So for people there might be wondering, what is the thing that we help, right? If it is not already known, right, we're going to be helping you be placed on the correct podcast so you can speak to the right audience. So in turn, right, like you as a company or as an individual, as a brand, gets exposure, you become like known, liked, and trusted in your area. So that's number one. Now, to answer your question, the thing, it's like person has to be looking at what is the value, right? Because I can get something, the price might be dollars wise less, but what am I getting in return, right? And so obviously I have not been, full disclaimer, I have not been in this field as long as you, right? So you know more than myself on
sure.
this.
Understood.
So I know that at least from the time that I've been working with you and helping people in this regards, right? Like sometimes that do come up, so-and-so, it's blah. Well, I know based on what I have seen and also on the different people that we have helped, at least in the short time that I've been here, it's like, what is the actual cost? What's costing to them? It's like, okay, good. I'm getting this placement, but how much of my time is it taking? Do I have to put my attention on X, Y, and Z? Versus us, we're looking at literally like a white glove service. Like all the person needs to do is show up, and that's it, right? And throughout their regards, we're going to be helping. Like, okay, maybe I don't know how to be a proper speaker, but let's say that you do, right? Even if you're listening on, obviously here, right, you're going to be able to notice a difference between the quality sound on my end versus Jeremy.
Hey, we're shipping you a microphone though, so this isn't going to be a long-term thing.
No, which is totally fine, right? Which it kind of goes further to drive, a point, right? Like,
sure.
For me, whenever I used to do webinars, like, okay, that's no big deal. Like, I don't, until I noticed the difference, seeing you speak, when I spoke, I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, that makes a difference. So what is actually the value, right? So if the value it is I'm getting more than what I'm getting paid, than what I'm paying for, the things actually doesn't cost me anything. If it's
Mhm.
translating into what I'm looking for, recognition that it's like one of the things like people are like, oh, what is the ROI on this? What is how
Yeah.
many leads can I get from this? Well, the thing is like there's two very different things that we're aiming for. Marketing, it is one thing, right? It's the action where I'm gonna make myself know in order to promote to get a sale, right? Which ideally that translates into a lead, that translates into a transaction, and etc. But prior to that, how are people going to transact with me or my company if they don't know who I am? But let's say they do know who I am because they're looking at my ad, but they don't trust me. They don't know my right. So that's where the PR comes in, and done properly, it takes time out of the equation, and the speed in which things can be done can actually be faster, translating into what? More money,
Yeah.
right? So that's at least my viewpoint on it.
Yeah, we have a lot of people with us on X this morning, by the way. That is our top streaming platform at the moment. So thanks out there, everybody. But I think this is something you have to consider because many times people will look at, okay, I have X number of marketing dollars. And I think there's this big confusion between marketing and PR that happens, right? And I even was at a seminar not long ago where they talked about, hey, PR is a top of funnel strategy. I agree with that to some extent. And what I will tell you is PR is actually an all the way through your funnel thing, right? First, because there's different ways you can look at this. There's creating more trust for people that want to work with you, right? So it's that first step. There's creating trust with people that are already in your marketing systems, right? Like they're either on your email list or they're following your social accounts or whatever it might be. And then there's also PR for your current clients. So yes, they like their service and they're happy with their service, but you want them to continue to like you and continue to want to refer to you by the initiatives you're doing, right? So these are things that people can buy into. So you have to think about, if you're not thinking with PR, you're kind of missing not just a portion of your funnel, but many parts of your funnel, right? That's something you have to consider, is trust goes the whole way through. And I think often people are like, I have X number of dollars to spend. I could spend on Google ads, or I could spend them on LinkedIn ads, or whatever it might be. And I don't know if LinkedIn's going to get mad at us because we're streaming there. But LinkedIn ads are super expensive. They're very expensive, and they don't typically have a huge ROI unless you are an Inc. 500 brand. Then you kind of have that kind of a budget to throw around. But most small businesses can't do that. So you have to consider, how am I going to change the ground that my business is on? And what I mean by that is, here, when you're looking at PR, marketing kind of creates leads coming in, right? But when it's done, right? Like, meaning if you stop running ads, there are no more ads sending leads into your business. PR might not send leads initially, but what you're going to see is it changes perception of you, perception of your brand, and gets your talking points known by a wider trust of people. So what you've done is you've changed the landscape. So you have to think about, in saving money, do you want to just get a few leads and see how it goes, or you want to change the landscape so you can build something with longer staying future power? There was a question you asked the prospect not long ago, was, do you expect to be doing this? I think it was 5 years from now. And the answer was absolutely. So if you're somebody thinking about building brand, that is something you need to think about. Is this something I'm going to be doing 5 years from now, 10 years from now, whatever it might be? If so, you need to invest in that trust factor. It's a big part of what you're doing to really get people to want to come on board and want to work with you. So now, in terms of saving money, there's a lot of different ways people do what we do. One of the most common ways is they'll get a bunch of podcast invitations, send them over to you. You'll figure it out and you'll get yourself on those shows and have a good time. The thing people don't consider is that even at that pace, you would need somebody on your team to still manage the bookings. So that's even the huge value in a white glove service, is managing your calendar, managing reschedules, managing any additional information you need for those calls. Because I'm going to be honest with you, in a media world, reschedules frequently happen. It's actually a statistic we monitor every week to see how we're doing, because we try to keep that number lower, right? But at the same time, you have to think about, okay, so now I have these podcasts and I'm going to go on them. I'm likely going to need somebody full-time on my team. Can I afford that person to manage this campaign for me? So these are all things you need to be thinking of, where instead you can have somebody on our team managing the campaign for you, but also looking at, well, what's happening in the media cycle? What's changing and what people are talking about, right? Because you look at past year, I've done a lot on the Roman Empire, right? Because that popped up in the media cycle. And that was something in my background we were able to use to get more media for the company. So this is a really, really vital portion to what you're doing. And sometimes saving a couple bucks is not worth the value you're actually going to lose in the long run.
Yeah, and I want to point, something out in terms of a PR being known in a given area or field, right? So I grew up in Dallas, and in my early 20s, I was a DJ, right? But I left Dallas 2018, I want to say. Yeah, 2018. Okay, good.
I can't see you as a DJ, by the way.
Sorry?
I can't see you as a DJ, by the way.
Yeah, I used to DJ radios, events, like weddings,
Wow.
you name it. Point being is, last year, right, somebody texted me asking me to do an event. And I haven't promoted on this subject for like since 2018 or probably before that. So because I was known in the area, right? So think about this, like this is what, 6 years later, and a person still reaching out versus the marketing side. All right, I'm pounding. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. If I stop, that's it, right? So this fun, and it happened even more like along the 6 years, people were still reaching out to me, and I'm like, no, go talk to this guy. Like, I'm done with that, right? So anyway, so that's like to a point of like, I like to think of myself in at that time in the area in Dallas that I was like a somewhat of a local celebrity kind of a thing, right? At least that's how I like to view myself. Might be a little bit of an ego there, but people did reach out. At least
he gets out of bed in the morning, the song Sandstorm plays.
So anyway, so it's basically to drive like the point, like you got like PR, right? It's like once you're known in the area, and then they had to shift right later on because I started doing something different, right? And then, anyways, just like making a comment like to add like, okay, that's the power of PR. And once you're actually known in the area, like how much further it actually takes you. And guess what? It takes time out of the equation. I'm not trying to like pound on the door trying to make a sale. That sales cycle could have happened if I was still in the field. Like, I had people reaching out to me.
Well, and as I said too, we've had people that, maybe we're talking to, and this has happened a number of times, and it's funny because quite a few of those that we had to work so hard to work with are our most often repeat clients, but there's a good number of them that went with the cheaper offer, right? And then a year later, when they've done, or 6 months later, whatever the agreement is they did with the other company, they've come back and they've said, shoot, we're in the same condition we were in a year ago, right? That we were hoping that you guys could help us out create. And the thing you have to consider, right, is nothing is ever exactly the same in the world out there long term, right? You're either growing or you're dying, maybe. And that's the world out there. And if you're exactly the same a year from now, well, in a lot of ways you're smaller. And that's what you have to think about is, can your brand afford that? Can your brand afford to lose a year of attention by investing in the cheaper option or the wrong thing that's not going to help you move the ball forward?
Or even a question, is that what I want?
Yeah.
Right? Is that what, because some people are like, I could afford it, okay, good. Let's say that you could, but is that what I want? Is that where I want to take my company? Some people might be, what, I just want to, I'm good where I'm at, right? If that is the case, then by all means, right? Like all good. But if you were looking obviously to grow and expand and be part of the top 5% of podcasts, right? And this is the data that I did not know until I started working with you. It was like, there is like a ranking on this, right? In terms of, which obviously makes sense in terms of viewership, reach, longevity, all these different factors that we take into account to be placing a person on a podcast. It's like, okay, would it make sense for me to go on those specific channels, right? If we take a look at the world, like any entrepreneur would, if they're looking obviously to expand and continue doing that, they had to do some of that to a degree or another. Is the world has been transitioning a lot to away from regular media.
Yes.
I can't remember last time I've seen anything on TV to get my data, my information on. Like, it's been many years, right? So, but where I know that driving or working out, I'm listening to podcasts, right? And anyway, that's where I get my information, right? The majority of
Yeah.
the time. So if I want to learn more about health and fitness, right? And doing triathlons. Okay, let me go look somebody, what's a podcast on health or whatever the case may be. Let me go find a guy. Funny things, like three guys, like at least this particular guy jumps to mind. He was known as the, I guess, Iron Cowboy. We did 50 Ironmans.
That's quite a name.
Yeah, 50 Ironmans in 50 days. I think he was in 50 different states. Anyway,
Wow.
some insane like thing, right? But point being is like, I'm looking for the information elsewhere, not on the TV. And so it's like this shift that's occurring right in front of our eyes. And if I'm looking to be, okay, can I speak to the right audience? And here's something that I also want to point it out, right? In terms of cost, time, efficiency, size of audience. If you were speaking in a room with 300 people that had interest on what you're talking about, or 500 people, would you consider that to be a successful event? I think most people would, right?
Well, I think that's something people get stuck on a lot, right? They hear the size of some of these shows and they're like, oh, well, those are the only ones that are going to move the needle for me. Well, let's say you're in a very niche business. If you had 100 people that have the budget, are in your niche and could spend money with you, I would say those 100 people are more valuable than 10,000 of the wrong ones, right? Like, sure, that vanity might feel great and you can say, look at all those people that viewed me, but you know what you're going to say? Oh, podcasting doesn't work, right? Because you've put so much attention on the wrong statistics here.
Yeah. And again, it goes back to saying, like, okay, here you have this track record of people that you have worked with, companies, case studies, like 6,000 different podcasts that you have worked with, different subjects, you name it, right? So the question is, kind of goes back to, do I want to grow and expand, right? Am I willing to commit to my business, like in the long term? And is that what I want, right? So if that is the case, right? You might want to consider like taking a look at the way that we work, right? I might be jumping the gun here a little bit, Jeremy, but it's one of the ways that you can potentially take a look at that, obviously, is through Jeremy's book, right? We have a book, and then maybe you can talk a little bit about that and why that'll be important for a person to get the book, as far as to understand how we work.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. And I appreciate you raising that. Man, I should hire you or something. Oh wait, I already did. But here's something to consider. So I wrote this book last year. It's called Command Your Brand, Grow Your Impact, Income, and Influence in a New Media Landscape. And the thing you want to understand is this is a very fast changing world, and there's so much to know about it. So this book, I actually took everything in my head you need to know about podcasting, PR, and media, distilled it down, but then I also put action steps in it too, because my goal is to help people out there. Maybe if you're not ready for this, or maybe you want to understand how it works before you jump on board. Because we've worked with people like that, right? They want to understand how everything works and they're ready to invest. This book is going to help you understand how to fully run a campaign that is going to be able to get your business out there in the right way, and help you create the right attention. Because I do think, you look at the past year, we've seen a lot of people get their news from podcasts now. A lot of people get their entertainment from podcasts now. And this is really becoming the direction media is going. And to not take advantage of this in some way, you're hurting yourself and your brand. So you want to grab a copy of this, you can head over to bestpodcastbook.com. That's bestpodcastbook.com. Grab a copy of this today. If you're like, hey, you know what? I don't need the book. I just want to hop on board and talk to that handsome Brazilian gentleman over there that wakes up to Sandstorm playing on his phone every morning, you can actually head over to commandyourbrand.com/book a call and find out how we can help you, right? We can show you the right strategy that's going to help you create trust and not just be another action you do, but something that changes how your brand is perceived and changes your future track. And that's something you really want to think about is you're laying down a new future track that's going to help your business grow in a different way and make all those other things you're doing a lot more successful. So Nano, any parting words before we jump out of here, man?
Yeah. So I want to say from, like a person that came in like with new eyes, didn't fully know the industry quite a bit, right? But it's like some of this datums, right? That it's on the book that, obviously I had to learn in order to help people. Okay. There is like a top 5% of podcasts that we work with, right? Why do we build a campaign? Right. So, like, okay, like if I'm, let's say, a business owner and I'm coming in, like the importance of that and strategizing and making your message, mastering the art of storytelling, having a call to action, like proper lighting, correct microphone, all these, little adjustments, quote unquote, that positions you as the authority where you're going to become media worthy, right? As again, do I want to do that, right? Like if I'm going to go to a big name network, right? On I almost hate to say call it old media, right? Because it's still going on, but let's say,
we like to call it legacy media. They're carrying the legacy.
Right. So, but if I'm speaking to the correct audience, like how do I want to be positioned myself? And I'm not saying like you got to wear a suit and tie, but like from the perspective of how I am viewed from their viewpoint. Anyway, so that's like, you have data and all of that and the importance, right? Because that's the difference between a professional and an amateur, right? Professional is able to all those fine details that make a difference. I mean, I could go on and on, about people in sports, UFC, like there's just the fine details, like you blink, like boom, done, right? And that's the difference that can help a person speak to the correct audience, land the client they're looking for, and either transform their business or take to an entire different level.
Yeah, awesome.
That's what I have.
All right, guys. So reminder, bestpodcastbook.com. You want to grab that book, or commandyourbrand.com/book a call. With or without the dashes, it will work. You can get to speak to this handsome gentleman right here next to me. And guys, whether you plan on buying something or not, just that conversation with this handsome gentleman is worth your time. So that's commandyourbrand.com/book a call. We're going to be doing a lot more of these and talking about different topics. So if you like this one, leave a comment below. Tell us what topic you'd like to talk about. What topic you would like us to talk about next, whether it's in PR, podcasting, new media, whatever it might be. I would love to have a conversation. So if you're watching this on X, we're on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, leave us a comment in any one of those places. We'll be looking out for it. But have a great day and go out there and command your brand. All right.
See you guys.